As promised in the last podcast, here we are with bioenergy. We call it candidate for biomass. Here you have various kinds of biomass. There are some insects that love flowers. I think you know what they are, who they are. Yummy organic food. They are taking all that pollen and everything and giving us some fun, sweet, healthy stuff. There is the seaweed, which obviously grows in the sea by the coast. CO2 is getting captured and converted into biomass, which we burn and produce CO2 again. So can we keep doing this without emitting additional CO2? That's the point. And can we use the birds and bees? And here is rapeseed, and here is a beetle that's doing its work, and that's taking fuel from the wood as well. We talked about disease spreading beetles that end up eating the plants and making them dead and maybe creating wildfires with lightning and so on. But here we are, as you can see. We'll hear from the biomass itself. Hi, as you can see, there is a whole bunch of us. I will just introduce us. I am wood, this is rapeseed, and that's manure, and those guys over there. So we have all these things here, manure, and those guys over there are vegetables, fruit, and backyard waste that comes from food and so on. Our name is biomass altogether. We are a bit nervous because we always have to keep explaining why we are sustainable but fossil energy sources are not. We are sustainable but fossil energy sources are not, because people say, look, you're made of plants and animals too, and you produce CO2 as well, as we are saying here. Of course that's true, yes, but we took that CO2 out of the air in the first place ourselves with the help of solar energy, and when we die, only the CO2 is removed from the atmosphere in the first place is coming back into the air. That's a lot different from fossil fuels, which haven't taken part. Let me read it again. That's a lot different than from fossil. That's a lot different from fossil fuels, which haven't taken part in the natural carbon cycle for millions of years and are now pumping their CO2 into the air. They did their part a long time ago, and they were sitting there quietly, and we are digging them out and burning them and producing new CO2 for the current time. And they're also super concentrated. They are burning with carbon. All the fossil fuels that you use add extra CO2 into the atmosphere. You have seen that in the Keeling's graph we looked at before, and this is similar to the glaciers melting and adding to sea level. Sea ice grows and melts. It doesn't change sea level like the ice cube in your glass, but when you put ice cube from outside, it's gonna raise the level in your glass. Just like that, water is taken out of the ocean and frozen into the glacier, but when the glacier melts, that's released back at a very different time. So we have to be careful about when somebody took the energy and the mass and when they released it. Especially greenhouse gases, plus those fossil fuels are not replenished. They formed a long time ago. Takes a long time to replenish them again. They are not renewable in that sense, but in a healthy forest, new trees just keep growing and growing, and you can make sure that they are not disturbed or burned down. So wood is renewable in that sense. That's what makes us sustainable sources of energy, the biomass, bioenergy as we call it. Here is some sugar cane, which produces what? Produces sugar, and sugar can be fermented and converted to ethanol, which is a gas. It's also a fuel. And here is a dung beetle that's feasting on dung, and there is somebody cutting down a tree like oil palm and taking it away, and there is a distressed beetle looking at it, and here is a guy that's just doing some other kind of biomass harvesting. But psst, come closer. I don't want rapeseed to hear this. There are also plants that are cultivated specifically to make energy. That's fine with the seaweed and algae, But they also did it with sugarcane, rapeseed, and oil palms. These are the oil palm here, and there are some snags attached to all these things. First, big chunks of rainforests are often destroyed to make room for the plantations, and that's not good. That sends a load of CO2 into the air when you do deforestation, but it's also bad for the people who live there and for the animals and plants that lose another bit of their habitat. When you cut a forest, you are taking out the housing for many of the animals and plants. Secondly, farmers in those places cannot grow food because they will grow palm oil if they can. If not, some other rich person will take the land and grow palm oil. And if biomass makes them more money, they don't want to grow food. So they may want to grow food, they may need food, but they think, hey, I can grow biomass and make more money and buy food. So less food comes onto the market, even though the world population is growing, and food prices will go. So that makes food more expensive for some. And who's the first to suffer? Of course, the poorest people who are working some job and making just enough money to buy food, but the food prices go up, they are suffering. That's why not everyone is a big fan of biomass or us. You should always check out where we come from and what our history is when somebody tells you they're giving you biomass or fuel from biomass or energy from biomass. And don't forget to include our transportation to the power station like this. That means more fuel and more CO2, of course, from burning fossil fuels or using batteries and so on in transportation. Particularly if we come from a long way off and wood is only truly sustainable if it comes from a sustainably managed forest. That means that when trees are chopped down, new ones are grown in their place, which will be able to absorb as much CO2 in their lifetime. So you must be taking in CO2 and releasing it and not creating new CO2. There aren't enough forests like that actually take in CO2, so there is always a catch. Renewable energy, sustainable energy, but always a catch. We'll come back and talk about geothermal energy and look at some nice Japanese macaques and why they are environmentally friendly and aware of environmental issues and what they can do. Okay, so just keep remembering that everything we do tends to have a carbon footprint. That's not your fault. Every day everything is set up for you, and the food you eat, the water you drink, the video games you are playing, and this podcast you are watching, everything needs energy. And right now we are producing energy even more and more from sustainable sources like solar, wind, and biomass and water, but it's not completely free of greenhouse gas emissions yet, and you have the opportunity to do that, to increase efficiency, do things without increasing greenhouse gases or not emitting greenhouse gases at all. So it's a massive opportunity for you to work on your future, make this future safe for yourself and all the others that will grow up with you and get old in front of you like me, and make money as well. It's not like this is all free work, volunteer work. You can make some good money and save lives and make the environment free of problems from human beings. See you in the next podcast with geothermal energy. We'll see what that means. Okay, come back soon.